Chile is famous for its iconic shape and mountains, but it is also home to the isolated Mediterranean ecoregion, the Chilean Matorral, or scrubland. This thin strip of land in central Chile is bordered by the world's driest desert to the north, the second highest mountain range to the east, thick temperate rainforests and subarctic forests to the south, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Its inaccessibility has led to unique plant and animal species. The range shown on the map is from One Earth's ecoregion framework. This ecoregion runs south of the Atacama Desert in Chile's Antofagasta region along the coast to Santiago, and south of Santiago in Chile's Central Valley to the Biobío region. The Mattoral spans 1,800 kilometers north to south at 15 to 100 kilometers in width. It covers a total area of 150,000 square kilometers. This region has a Mediterranean climate with hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters. It is one of 5 Mediterranean areas worldwide, along with California, South Africa, Western Australia, and, of course, the Mediterranean basin itself. The weather is shaped by a stable, high-pressure belt at 30 degrees south. In the summer, this brings warm, dry air to the region, while in the winter, it shifts towards the equator, bringing cooler, wet air, the winter rains. The Humboldt Current, which is a vast ocean current along South America's west coast, brings cold polar waters north, cooling the marine air in coastal climates. This reduces rainfall a tad, but generates considerable fog. Now, since Chile stretches so far from the north to south, it has multiple climate types. The northern boundary of the Mattoral is a warm, dry transition between the Atacama Desert and the Mediterranean climates known as Norte Chico. It is a mountainous semi-desert where permanent vegetation is rare except along the coast. In the far north, the city of Copiapó is warm and dry, averaging 18.5 degrees with just 30 millimeters of rain over the winter. As we move south, the landscape is covered by more permanent vegetation, and it starts to cool down. La Serena averages 16 degrees, but receives over 100 millimeters of rain over the winter. The central zone of Chile, or the Mediterranean center, which has 70% of Chile's population, has a much more comfortable climate. Santiago, the capital, is also 16 degrees, but receives 500 millimeters of rain annually. In the south, woodlands are increasingly common as the landscape transitions into the Valdivian temperate forests along the flatter Central Valley. The city of Chillán is 14 degrees and receives 1,200 millimeters of rain annually. So, north to south, it cools down quite a bit and precipitation picks up immensely. Most of this ecoregion is below 3,000 meters of elevation, although there are transition areas where it exists higher than this. Bordered on the east by the Andes, whose peaks can reach over 6,000 meters in height, the northern semi-desert will transition into the central Andean dry puna at the higher elevations. To the south of the range, where the Andes are shorter, the Mattoral will transition into the southern Andean steppe. Now, being so close to the Andes and receiving a lot of seasonal precipitation, there are many rivers. Over 1,000 rivers snake their way down through mountain valleys, often supporting year-round greenery on their banks, which is especially notable in the drier regions. For the plants and animal species to arrive here, they either have to cross the hyper-arid Atacama Desert to the north or the high-elevation Andes, as is the case for most of the animals in the north of the region. They typically have South American or neotropical influences. In the south of the region, many of the animals are similar to those found in Patagonia or the Valdivian forests, with a lot of the plants having a Gondwanan heritage, similar to those found in New Zealand and Australia. There is an unusually high amount of endemic plants found here due to the Mattoral's extended isolation, with 45% of the plants here found nowhere else in the world. The northern zone hosts the lomas, or low hills formations, which are fog oases found on the steep windward slopes and provide moisture to the plants living here. These plants including perennial flowers, cacti, shrubs, and the Chilean tobacco plant. The Norte Chico semi-desert is a barren, empty land spotted with cacti, low shrubs, and perennials, except every 5 to 10 years, This is home to the flowering desert, where with sufficient rainfall, flowers will burst from the otherwise barren land existing between these shrubs. This creates vast carpets of color with the backdrop of mountains, which is a true window screensaver right there. An iconic and endangered Chilean plant, lion's claw, is here as well. They grow 1 to 2 meters along the ground before flowering into these bright red flowers. The vegetation of the true Mediterranean center is similar to California's chaparral, but differs with the occasional Chilean palm, the puya plants, and columnar cacti. The coastal regions will typically host moist forests that are similar to the Valdivian further south. Now, the coastal Mattoral is reminiscent of sage scrub, with some scrubs reaching over 3 meters in height. The sclerophyll woodlands, which are common to Mediterranean zones. These are woody plants with evergreen leaves and tough, thick trunks to prevent water loss. These woodlands support even more amazing plants. In the ravines, there are even acorn forests at lower elevations and cinnamon forests in the higher. Thorny scrub is also common, often found on the northern-facing slopes, creating dense brush for animals to hide. South of Santiago, the transition area not only changes climate, but the neotropical plant elements give way to Gondwanan elements. This leads to neotropical puya plants existing alongside southern beaches and conifers in thicker forests, with shrublands still existing in drier open clearings. Even though this is technically one ecoregion, it is a myriad of ecosystems, and that lends true to the animals living here. Species tend to either be adapted to the desert, the montane grasslands, or temperate rainforest. Meeting in the middle has created an interesting mix of all three elements with its species. The largest mammal found here is the guanaco, which is the only large native herbivore in the region, standing at 1 to 1.3 meters at the shoulder, with the largest of them weighing up to 140 kilograms. They're only found in small pockets in the far north of the range or the transition zones to the elevated steppes. More commonly, this is a land of rodents, feeding on the shrubs and vegetation, burrowing to escape the heat and the predators. There are over 10 species of Chryseidae, or the New World mice, with a couple such as Darwin's leaf-eared mouse being endemic. In the north of the range, in the higher elevations, are the endemic and unfortunately endangered long-tailed chinchilla, which are likely the descendants of the domestic chinchilla, as well as the large southern viscacha and the endemic Bennett's chinchilla rats. The rodents most representative of the Mattoral are Octodontidae, or the degus. Of the 6 species of degu, 3 live only here. The moon-toothed degu is near threatened, Bridges degu is vulnerable, and the common degu is, well, common. The word degu comes from the indigenous language of Chile, Mapudungun, and dewu means mouse or rat. Weighing up to 300 grams, they're a small vocal rodent that both burrow and climb amongst the shrubs to reach their food. Also from this rodent family are 2 species of rock rat and the endemic kororoo, which live primarily underground at colonies, but are unusual in the fact that they are also nomadic, moving as a group to find new areas for food, leaving behind buried bulbs and tubers that will have then grown into plants as they return to their former areas. The large coipu, or nutria, resides here in the waterways to the south of the region, alongside the Monito del Monte, which only occurs in the forests of the furthest south. These are small arboreal marsupial species, which are more closely related to Australian marsupials than the others from South America. The other South American marsupials found here are 2 species of opossum. The elegant fat-tailed mouse possum is entirely endemic. It's got a big chonky tail to store fat during the dry season, and they are versatile omnivores, both land-living and arboreal, feeding on insects, fruits, and small vertebrates. Found in the extreme south of this region in the forests is the pudu, the world's smallest deer. With adults only weighing up to 11 kilograms, they rely on thick underbrush for protection, standing on their hind legs to reach the foliage they consume. The marine otter lives along the coast of this region, and the only weasel species found here is the lesser grison. Weighing up to 2 kilograms, it hunts on the plentiful rodents, as does the omnivorous hognose skunk. With so many small animals as prey, this area supports 3 species of cat. The cod is the smallest feline in the Americas. It's smaller than the average house cat, and it hunts in the forest and scrub. The pampas cat is another small species, but it's found in the north of the range. Finally, the apex predator in the Mattoral is the puma. It is a very adaptable cat that hunts guanacos and prefers other large prey animals. And it kind of blows me away that they're all the way down here at the southern tip of the world, considering we have them up here where I'm from in Canada as well. Their range is massive. And where there are cats, there are dogs. There's the Calpio and the South American gray fox, which hunt small birds and mammals in the more open regions of the Mattoral. Then, at night, we have 12 species of bats hunting the insects, such as the endangered Atacama myotis, flying just as the bats do. There are many, many bird species here, because flight makes navigating the harsh conditions that you need to get here much easier. So we find a higher variety of birds here than any terrestrial animals. Along the waterways, there are over 20 species of ducks, swans, geese, and grebes, and there are some striking water birds here, such as the black-necked swan, Andean duck, the Andean goose with its unique short bill, and the striking ashy-headed goose. Many of the waterfowl have ranges across both Chile and Argentina. The waterways and lakes also host the neotropical cormorant, the osprey, the red-bellied kingfisher, 6 rail species, and 4 heron species. Along the coast and at salt flats throughout the area, the Chilean flamingo can also sometimes be spotted. Also along the coast, the shorebird species include 8 species of plovers, 2 oystercatcher species, 12 sandpipers, and the black-winged stilt. Many of these birds will winter here, where the highly productive oceans provide them plenty of food. Then there's some birds which are less reliant on the coast and more so on the seas themselves, including the Peruvian booby, the red-legged cormorant, the Peruvian pelican, and the Humboldt and Magellanic penguins who breed on colonies on the shores. Flying overhead these birds are 7 species of gulls, skimmers, and terns. Now if we head inland, the Chilean tinamou is endemic here, and although it can fly, it is a very terrestrial bird. The 3 seed snipe species are also common to rocky slopes, preferring open regions to feed on seeds, where you'll also see the lone ibis species stalking the grassland. 3 hummingbirds are found here, the southern and Atacama hummingbirds being common. These 2 birds are dwarfed in size, however, by the giant hummingbird, who is a seasonal visitor. This bird reaches up to 22 centimeters in length, the largest hummingbird in the world, and prefers the dry, open habitats. These dry, open habitats also host the Serrano nightjar and 5 dove species. Looking way, way overhead, you'll see the silhouette of the largest bird of prey in the world. With a wingspan of 3.3 meters and weighing up to 15 kilograms, it's the Andean condor, soaring on thermal updrafts looking for carcasses to eat. Other scavengers include the turkey and black vultures. The more active birds of prey here are 8 species of hawk, 5 species of falcon, and 6 species of owls. With so many small birds, rodents, and reptiles, there's plenty of food for them to hunt. Further south, there are 3 woodpecker species found in the transition forest, and they're all stunning, but they are not quite as stunning as the colors of the 3 parrot species which live here. One even nesting colonially in burrows. Now when we get to the passerine species, 2 out of the 3 are represented by either tapaculos, ovenbirds, or tyrant flycatchers. 8 species of tapaculos live here, with 4 existing nowhere else in the world. With their short wings and strong legs, they are well suited to the undergrowth and grasslands. For the ovenbirds, 18 species are representative, with 3 being endemic. Then there are 16 species of tyrant flycatchers. These birds primarily thrive in the undergrowth of the sclerophyll forests and shrublands, feeding on seeds and insects. The Chilean pruning cutters are an interesting slow-moving bird species. Almost sloth-like in their behavior, they feed on leaves, flowers, and frequently mowed lawns. Also in these open and more human-impacted areas are a species of wren, thrush, mockingbird, sparrow, and 2 finch species. And to finish off the passerine species, there are another 5 species of blackbirds and 8 species of tanagers, many of which are only located in Chile and Argentina. In total, over 150 birds that frequent this region. Now, with the warm and dry summer climate, reptiles are common here. There are only 2 species of snakes, the Chilean scrub snake and Chilean bush racer, but there are many more species of lizards. Copper iguanas, broad-headed geckos, monotrotejus, Pacific keel-tailed iguanas, and over 20 species of smooth-throated lizards. These abundant small lizards typically reach 10 to 25 centimeters in length and live on rock faces or in dense shrubs feeding on insects. The largest reptile found here is the Chilean iguana, which is up to 50 centimeters long. The amphibians include toads in the more arid regions and frogs in the wetlands. Some of these species include the Atacama toad, the Chilean four-eyed frog, and the helmeted water toad, which is an aggressive and huge amphibian. Up to 30 centimeters long and weighing a kilogram, they eat anything they can fit in their mouths. And there's countless species of insects living here as well, eating plants and the other insects, providing food for the many small animals of the region. Some of these include the Chilean pine spider weevil, an endemic hoverfly, this two-toned bee, and this large moth. There are many arachnids as well. Scorpions, spiders, and tarantulas abound. And unfortunately, as with any area, surprise, surprise, there are many introduced and invasive species. We have European rabbits, black rats, goats, American mink, red deer, wild boar, California quail, ring-necked pheasant, the rock dove, monk parakeet, African clawed frogs, and the house sparrow. They all thrive here, competing with the natural species for food and habitat. Altogether, the Mattoral has some amazing ecosystems. The plant species here support a ton of insects, small reptiles, small rodents, and birds, supporting the base of the food web. There are not any large herbivores to be found, except those small patches where the guanacos are present. And there's an interesting mix of desert and forest-adapted species that coexist and thrive here. Of anywhere in the world, this is the #1 spot for dagyus and tapaculos. They have found their niche here, and they thrive unlike anywhere else in the world. As long as people were in South America, they were drawn to this land for its comfortable climate and great agriculture. Before Spanish colonization in the 16th century, this land was inhabited by many indigenous peoples living in harmony with the land. However, after the Spanish conquest, this land has started to become heavily altered, with Santiago, Chile's current capital, founded in 1541, and ever since, the population, urbanization, deforestation, and modification of the surrounding land to agriculture has been ever increasing as the human footprint has grown. Today, the Mattoral is the agricultural center of Chile. It is also the region that produces its wines. Often, when hearing the word Mediterranean, you'll think of either Italy or Spain. And when thinking of those two regions, one of the first images that comes to mind can be its vineyards. Well, Chile is no exception. It is truly beautiful here, and they have some beautiful vineyards. And Chile is now the world's 5th largest exporter of wines. Over 6 million people live in Santiago alone. The Central Mediterranean zone, which is only 10% of Chile's total land area, has over 60% of the country's population, with an average population density in this zone comparable to Denmark, at 155 people per square kilometer. Now, this is a heavily endangered ecoregion, and not much of the native landscape remains. Under threat from being heavily populated and urbanized, the land used for agriculture, grazing of livestock, logging, tree plantations, introduced plants and animals, fragmentation, being underprotected, and increased drought and wildfire risk due to climate change, there's a lot going against it. However, there are goals to work with farmers and conservations for sustainable land management, balancing what is good for the economy and the people with what is good for nature. As well, the focus on habitat restoration and establishing more protected areas is key to seeing this region once again thrive. While much of the still pristine habitat is located on private land, if you were to visit and wanted to see the native flora and fauna for yourself, often the most accessible places for you to visit would be the national parks, but only 1% of the Mattoral is formally protected. Bosque Frei Jorge National Park protects 100 square kilometers of semi-arid scrubland, but also contains the world's northernmost Valdivian temperate rainforests. Llanos de Chile National Park protects 450 square kilometers of coastal desert lomas, and this is a perfect location to witness the flowering desert phenomenon. La Campana National Park best represents the central area's plants and animals. It's a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve with 545 plant species, or 20% of Chile's total, represented here in this small area, and it is one of the last natural forests of the Chilean palm. Chilean Matorral is truly a paradise, with the perfect climate for many species and the many people who live there. It is an area I hope that gains more and more attention due to it being so at risk and endangered and fragmented, because there truly is so much diversity here in its landscapes, its scenery, and its ecosystems. If you live here or have visited here, please share any stories or experiences you've had. As well, what areas should I be researching for future videos? What do you want to learn more about in the world? Let me know in the comments below, and until then, thank you.